Matt has asked me to help out in the build of the Blue Ridge Overland Gear Chevy Suburban 2500, and how could I pass that up? This thing is a 2013. What's interesting about this truck is they quit selling them to the public after, I want to say it's around 2010, 2011. So these trucks were only available as a fleet vehicle or through police department or game park and fisheries. What's unique about the 2500 Suburban is it's a 9-passenger vehicle and it's got a 9,600 pound towing capacity. It's actually got the highest towing capacity in its class. The only thing that's even remotely close to it is the Ford Excursion, which they discontinued in 2006, if I remember right. For this build, it's all about being that utilitarian truck. He has to use it at his property. It's got to be able to be an overlander and handle trails and off-road use, and it's got to be able to be a tow rig. Taking a look in the back of the Suburban, you can see the owner's already done some thoughtful touches. It's got a CFX Dometic fridge mounted on an alu-cab tilting fridge slide with storage buckets below for shoes or other gear. And then he's got a custom-made set of boxes made to his specs that take up the other side. Now the cool thing about this setup is, on this side the fridge is just short enough that you can still utilize the third row seating. This side here actually goes all the way forward, but either one of these modules can be removed from the back of this truck as needed. So even with all this stuff installed in the back of the truck, it's still falling short in one spot: electrical system. The only place that he can plug in back here right now is this little cigarette lighter right here that's probably rated for 15 amps, which might be sufficient enough for the fridge, but there's no lighting back here, there's no USB ports. We're lacking in several different aspects. My goal here is to basically document this for you guys, to show you guys how to build an Overlander, or to plan out the electrical system in an Overlander and build it at home. Yeah, you can go pay somebody to do this, but a lot of this stuff isn't that hard. And I want to be able to show you guys what's involved to do that, and then you guys can make your own assessment on, is that something I want to tackle, or should I leave that to a professional? For your own builds, I want you to think about what you need, you know, just point blank what you need. I need to power my fridge, I need to charge my cell phone, I need to charge my Garmin InReach, or my Overlander, or my iPad that's running Gaia, whatever it may be. Think about what you need. After you figure out your basic needs, you need to think about wants. And this is where you kind of have to think in the future a little bit. But what you want to do is start here and be wired for here. So that way when you get to that level, you can add all those components and all those accessories, and you're fine without having to pull the entire harness back out of the truck. So again, this is going to be built solely in this garage. So no fancy shops or anything like that. This is an at-home project that we're doing here to show that we can actually do this. One of the things you need to consider while picking your components is what you're going to power your system with. Is this going to be a typical dual battery system that's using lead acid deep cycle batteries? Or are we going to go lithium? Or in this case, are we going to use something like this Goal Zero Yeti 1500X? Now, the nice thing about going with something like this Goal Zero is everything is built into it already. So this is a lithium battery pack that has an inverter built into it, has cigarette lighter ports, DC ports, Anderson connectors, and already has a solar controller all built into the unit. Now, the price is up there because all of that's self-contained. But if you really think about what you're going to spend on buying each individual component and running the wiring between them and the amount of space it's going to take up, the Goal Zero is definitely one of the better purchases you can make. Now, to charge the Goal Zero, you have to have a car charging kit, which is in this box right here, and that simply drops into the top underneath these terminals here. It's going to go right in here in this bay and plug into those ports inside there. And what that's going to allow you to do is charge this directly from your alternator in the vehicle. And it'll close that link between the alternator in the vehicle and the goal zero when the voltage drops below 13.5 volts. So basically it's a built-in battery isolator as well. Really can't go wrong with that setup. Now the other thing we want to do is we want to be able to run shore power to charge the goal zero. So we're going to install this NOCO two-way splitter. That's going to install either on the fender in the back or in the front. We haven't figured out exactly where we're going to put that yet. And one plug is going to charge the goal zero, while the other plug is going to go to a NOCO Genius battery charger. And that is actually going to be hooked up to the main battery underneath the hood. So when the vehicle is plugged into shore power, not only are you charging up the goal zero, but you're also going to be maintaining the battery that's underneath the hood. So you shouldn't ever have to worry about either battery going flat. To control our accessories in the truck, we're actually going to try this Garmin power switch. Now the Garmin power switch is actually designed and made for UTVs and side-by-sides, but it's basically the exact same principle. You have power control circuits coming off of it, and your main power, which is going to actually in this case be run by the Yeti here. It's going to send power to Baja design lights, the backup camera, the WeBoost 5G drive reach that we have here. That's going to be controlled by that as well. So it basically does all the exact same functions as a switch pod. The only limiting factor on it is it's only 6 accessories. So where your switch pod runs into an 8 accessory and your switch pros, if I remember correctly, I think they're up to a 12 accessory unit. But this doesn't cost as much as either of those do. And the other slick thing about this is we don't have to mount another switch panel inside the truck, because the GPS that we're using in this vehicle is a Garmin Overlander that will pair directly to this box and be able to control all the accessories from that touchscreen on the Overlander. Going along with that, we're installing this Garmin wireless backup camera, which is also going to pair to the Overlander. So now not only is the Overlander controlling all of our accessories, but it's also going to control our backup camera as well. So we're going to be able to see everything behind us, and we can turn that on and off as needed. Over here we have our circuit breakers. We have some Baja Designs dome lights that we're going to be installing in the rear hatch. We have our power cable that we're going to be running from the back to the front, or from the front to the back, however which way you look at it. And we're also going to install one of these Anderson connector plugs, so we're able to jump start other vehicles directly to the main battery. And then in the back here we have a Blue Sea fuse box. This is what I was talking about with future proofing. This is 6 circuits. We're going to install this in the center console, and then this is the wiring that goes from the alternator to the goal zero to charge it. Down here we have an, I believe it's an 85 amp or watt solar panel from 4th D Solar, if I remember correctly. This is one that sticks on the hood, and we're probably going to have to make some modifications to make this thing work, but we'll tackle that as we go along here. Speaking of the center console, this is the center console that we're actually going to be changing out into the truck. So this is a Havis unit. This is the same type of unit that you'd find in a game warden's truck, game park and fisheries, and also in a police vehicle. They have nutserts on the inside that run on the tracks, and then these open bays right here, there's actually individual panels that you can configure this thing however you want to. That was one of the major wants that we wanted to do with this truck, was be able to upgrade the center console and make it how we wanted it to be. Now it comes with two 12-volt cigarette lighter ports in it, and then a couple switch blanks. We're going to be changing these cigarette lighter ports out to probably the 4.8 amp dual USB chargers from Blue Sea. And then in this box we have something special. This comes from a company out of Lawrenceville, Tennessee. They are Little Shop Manufacturing, and they specialize in airbag systems and air ride systems, but one of the other things that they specialize in is they make these cool laser cut brackets that bolt right onto the engine for most late model GMs, Dodges, and Fords, and it allows you to run a York air compressor. And a York air compressor is basically the exact same style of compressor that you'd have on a regular plug-in air compressor, so it's full-time 100% duty air pressure. They send you the fittings, the stainless discharge hose, the muffler, all the hardware, the syringe to fill it up, and then of course the electromagnetic clutch, because this thing works pretty much like an AC compressor because that's what it was originally designed for. These were originally air conditioning compressors on older late model vehicles, and the Jeep guys years and years ago, and a lot of the Toyota guys as well, figured out that they could bolt these onto their vehicles and have a full-time air compressor on the trail. So this is a game changer. We're not running an ARB on this truck. We're going to be running this York compressor. Now that we know what components we're going to be putting in the truck, we need to focus on where are our options for routing our harnesses and installing our components. Now the first thing I can tell you is that the York compressor should be mounted right here next to the alternator. That's the design location, so we're pretty much set in stone on where that one can go. Now the factory fuse box is located over here on the driver's fender, but the battery is located on the passenger rear fender over here, or in the back of the engine bay I should say. And you can see there's already been some accessory wiring added right there. We're gonna have to clean that up because that's just running unprotected over the loom right here, and then it's disappearing down into a firewall grommet or boot down behind the fuse box here. So we're gonna get all that situated and cleaned up. So we know that the air compressor is going under the hood. We're gonna have to have a power connector that goes to that. We want to be cognizant of what's along the floor here on this truck. Now, because this was an old game warden's truck, it actually has the rubber flooring in it. So we don't have to really worry too much about carpet, which is a nice thing. The sills may be our best chance for running the power cable from the alternator to the back. I do know that the Yeti, or the Goal Zero, is going to be living on top of this box right here. And it's going to be attaching to these L-tracks. But beyond that, I don't really have anything else set in stone. On the rear tailgate here, we're going to be installing the Baja Designs dome lights. And originally we were going to install them into the plastic right here. But now what I'm thinking about doing is actually installing them onto the glass. And the reason for that is that this truck actually features an option to open just the top glass like this. So if we install the lights onto this glass, that glass is still in the exact position that we'd want to be cascading light down on the back of our camp. We're gonna have to get creative with that one, because anybody who's ever attached anything to a pane of glass with adhesive tape knows that when the sun's out like this, it doesn't last very long. You'll have connectors and accessories hanging by wires at that point in time. Because we're going to be installing that console into the truck right here to replace the factory console, we need to run some type of wiring up to it, because that is where our Garmin Overlander and our InReach and USB charging ports and all that stuff is going to end up. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw up a rough sketch, and I mean really rough sketch, of what we think this might look like.